Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to another Facebook Live. My name is John Marshall. I'm the president here at CMU. And with me today is my friend and colleague, Jody Diers, Vice President of Student Services. Thanks for coming today, Jody.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah. So we'll start off with some news that we just got minutes ago. Chatted with Mesa County friend and former Sheriff Stan Hilke, who's now the head of the Department of Public Safety here in Colorado, and he shared with us that this weekend there will be limited lanes open on I-70 through Glenwood Canyon. So that's great news for us. So my encouragement for you is to check cotrip.org. Follow that closely. I know some of you are already getting ready to move in.
Absolutely.
This weekend. We'll talk about a little bit here in a sec. But right at the outset, I wanted to share that exciting news. The news outlets are probably all reporting it as of this moment, but do check that cotrip.org. Our best understanding is that that will be happening on Saturday afternoon, and that we'll see some limited traffic starting to flow through Glenwood Canyon. But before you come, and I know many of you are planning to come on Sunday, go ahead and check that cotrip.org. But great news, light literally at the end of our tunnels here, so we're excited about that. So Jody,
That's awesome.
Move-in is coming. Early start this coming weekend. Kids are coming this week, next week. Tell us a little bit about what they can expect and how this is all going to go.
You bet. This is my favorite time of the year, to see the students returning to campus and everybody's happy and ready to get those straight A's going and just happy to be here. And so we welcome students and parents and families to come see our campus and enjoy what we think is very exciting and such a beautiful place to be. So move-in, hopefully you've all seen newsletters around move-in experience from Residence Life from our director, Emily Bollinger. If you haven't seen that recently, please, you can find it on our website. Just go to, I think they have it up on the screen right now, and you can look up our newsletter piece, and I think he's finding it. There you go. If you click on that, it'll take you to the steps to move in, and it's pretty simple. We list them out there for you, but the important thing is you must come to campus with some kind of test, whether that's you've already had COVID and you've uploaded your positive results, or you have the antibody test, or you've been vaccinated. There's one more thing. You can come and be tested as well. And if you can be tested at your home site before you come to Grand Junction, it's better if you get that done, so that's one less checkbox for you to handle as you get here. So I would encourage you to do that.
Let's take a quick second and talk about that. The COVID Check partner that we've had throughout, COVID Check Colorado, has a variety of sites along the Front Range. For those of you coming from the Denver area, stop by one of those sites. It's quick and easy. You can do that. If you're coming this weekend, you could probably do that on Friday or Saturday, and that result will be turned around quickly. And so when you get here, you can have a negative test result in hand. If they're from Western Colorado, somebody who's coming from out of state, maybe you don't have access to a testing site easily. When you get here, you can test here too. So if you don't have a former positive result that you've uploaded, if you don't have vaccination, and we strongly encourage you to get the vaccination, if you're not in either of those two categories, you can test here, and you can do that right next to our Student Wellness Center, which is off next to Orchard Avenue and the Orchard Avenue Apartments and the Student Wellness Center. There's a little coffee kind of Java hut there. It's a walk-up testing site, quick and easy, and you can take care of testing when you get here, right?
Absolutely. They were all sitting out there this morning. I think they tested a bunch of our athletes this morning as well.
Oh, that's great.
So they're all set.
So the other thing, maybe as we're chatting about I-70, there's other ways to get here. We talked a little bit last week with some parents around the Highway 50, but the airports are also a good option. And a special shout out to our friends at Frontier Airlines, who really stepped up for us in the last week and are offering a $70 round trip flight out of DIA into Grand Junction for the time being. And so
that's round trip?
That's round trip. Okay. Yep. So jump on. We've got I put it up on my Twitter and social media. I know many of you are shocked to know that I'm on Twitter, but I am.
How about TikTok?
Don't tempt me. So Frontier's got a $70 flight, and if that's a good option for you and your family, check into that. So Highway 50 is a good option. Limited access through Glenwood Canyon. You can always go the northern route up through Steamboat and Craig, and then down through Meeker and Rifle into Grand Junction, or you can fly through DIA. So you can see that alternative route. Looks like we've got the northern route there. It's a little like going to from Colorado Springs to Denver by way of Kansas City, but such is Colorado. Okay.
And if you're in Colorado Springs, you can, Highway 50 is open.
Yeah, 50's open, and they've suspended the work through Little Blue Canyon, which is just this side of Blue Mesa Dam. So they've suspended that to make sure that that traffic continues. But do check cotrip.org. Yep, and you can see there that that's, until further notice, they've suspended that work so that we'd like to thank specifically for our Mavely to get here. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
A lot of ways to get here, but do check into all those options. Highway 50, the northern route, limited access through 70, and then of course you've got flights coming and going every day out of DIA. So lots of ways to get here, but want to make sure we've talked through some of those options, right?
You bet.
Jody?
One of the things I just want to remind folks that if you do miss your move-in time, it's not the end of the world. If we don't have staff sitting out front to welcome you, on every residence hall door there's a duty phone number, and all you have to do is call that number and somebody will step out and help you and get you checked in. So
that's in case you get here at an odd hour or something unplanned.
Absolutely.
Just call that, and that's all 24/7, right?
24/7.
Yep.
We hope that you make it at your reservation time, but if not, we understand with all the changes happening. But we'll get you checked in.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about orientation. So some students will be coming this weekend doing some early starts. Some students are already here because maybe they're athletes. Mm-hmm. The balance of our students will be coming on the 18th, right?
Correct.
So let's talk about orientation. What's that going to look like?
Orientation is a wonderful opportunity for students and parents. We have some sessions for parents to get to know more about CMU, how to be safe, what resources we have, what a class might look like. We have all kinds of guest speakers coming in. We break up into smaller groups. You get to know some of the peer mentors, peer-to-peer students on campus. Some of our student leaders are helping out. And it's really a really easy way to get to learn campus before the masses show up on that first day of school. So we encourage you to come and we encourage you to participate. It's highly, highly recommended. Meaning mandatory, but we would love
get here and get a part of it, right?
Exactly. We would love to have you here and come with a positive attitude and be ready to go.
Yeah, I would just add to that, Jody. I know you and the entire team have worked really hard to put together an amazing program for orientation, but orientation is, as we're thinking about all those steps, it's such an important thing to get off on the right foot.
Absolutely.
And for students to get connected, to understand their resources, and really to get a bearing before classes start on Monday. And I think that orientation program that you and the amazing team at admissions, Melissa Tolson and others, have really worked hard to work with Emily Bollinger and the whole team to put together a really outstanding program so that those students can get acclimated, they understand their resources really well, kind of know the campus a little before we throw them into classes on Monday, right?
Absolutely. It sure makes students feel a lot more comfortable. If you think back to your first day of high school, it's a little bit scary and a little bit tricky. So if we bring you in a few days early, it just gives you that foot forward, and we're excited to have you here.
Yeah. Jody, we're so grateful for all the work that you're doing. Is there anything else we should think about as students and families are coming this weekend, or for check-in, move-in, or orientation?
I would encourage you again to look at the newsletter. Make sure that you have your MAV card. You need your MAV card to move in. And then also please be aware of the parking signs. Some of our residence halls are harder to get to than others, and so we've actually blocked off some of the parking so that we just have drop-off only. So when you come through, it's not to leave your car for more than 5 minutes to unload. We should have student workers there to help you unload if you so like that to happen. We're there to help. So please be aware we've got students, staff there to help you and make this a good experience.
Jody, thanks so much for joining us today.
You bet.
Really appreciate that. So, as we think about coming into this new academic year, I would just say that we are aware that there's always going to be questions about checking in on campus. And I thought, looks like there's a few questions specifically about campus safety and about property theft. Our campus, if you go to our Clery report, which is a federally mandated safety report that we publish on our website, you can see that this is an incredibly safe campus. But the biggest perpetual challenge that we face is, in fact, thefts. So our police department, Grand Junction Police, is our campus police agency. We have a great partnership with the GJPD, and they do an outstanding job of really supporting and assisting us. If you are bringing a bike to campus, two things for you. One, chat with GJPD, make sure it's registered with them so they've got a serial number on that bike, and then chat with them about a particular style of lock. This is a simple and easy thing to do, but they have very specific guidelines to ensure that your bike is as safe as possible, that it's being stored well, and that the locks are appropriate. If for some reason that a piece of property is stolen from you, this is a problem that happens from time to time. We're no different than the regular community in that regards. Reach out to the Grand Junction Police Department. Sergeant Corey Tomps is our lead here on campus, and he can assist any of your students in that. And if you have a specific instance that you want to chat about, reach out to us so that we can support you or your student regarding that. But that is an unfortunate reality of being in a public space, is that sometimes people are looking to take things that aren't theirs, and they show up here to do that. So I think that addresses the first question about bike safety. The other thing I want to mention as we're heading into the fall here is financial aid. We know that this has been a tough year and a half. Many of you have been impacted by the pandemic. For some of you parents, you may have seen decreased work hours or maybe even lost the job. Reach out to us. Our IRIS team has been hard at work making sure that a whole series of new financial aid opportunities are available. That would include our Maverick Housing Scholarship, the Maverick Momentum Grant, and the Perseverance Scholarship. There's a variety of these options available to you. I was just corresponding with a parent the other day about this very topic who said, look, my husband and I run our own small business. We saw some of our income reduced, but it's not really reflected on the FAFSA. No problem. We have a specific way to deal with this. The easiest thing for you to do is reach out, have your student set up an appointment with an IRIS counselor or financial aid counselor, and they can do that by heading to the website, and they can schedule an appointment by going to coloradomesa.edu/IRIS, and there's a variety of ways for them to select a financial counseling appointment. Make sure we've looked for every dime of financial aid available for your student. So vital, and we have a lot of dollars available this year in particular. We've got one-time monies that we can use to support you and your family. So do reach out. Make sure we've done everything in our power to really make that work. Yeah. So there's your screen there that you can jump on with IRIS, schedule an appointment, but do that work because that can make all the difference in terms of working on financial aid. All right, so now we pivot to everyone's favorite co-host and guest, Dr. Amy Bronson. Welcome back, Dr. Bronson.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Always a pleasure. So I assume you're here to talk about athletics or academics?
Athletics, research. What do we want to talk about today?
Or perhaps COVID.
Or COVID.
Okay.
Yes.
So we are heading into the beginning of school, and we are so excited about this. Mm-hmm. You know, a year and a half ago, we started this journey out not knowing a lot about this pandemic. We have learned a lot, haven't we?
We have learned a lot,
yeah.
Yes.
So tell us a little about what your medical advisory and public health advisory committee has been up to and heading into the fall here.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And, you know, I think what we learned last year is as much data and all the science that we can bring together, we're learning a lot still every day. Mm-hmm. And so I think the Medical Health and Advisory Board, our external board, has been so instrumental in helping us understand the COVID response that's happened in our community. And I think specifically I want to hit on Delta variant because I think it's It's in the news, it's in the narrative, and a lot of people are wondering about that. And I think it's important to bring that back to the local level and what's been happening in Mesa County around the Delta variant. We really saw Delta variant likely here as early as April. It became the dominant strain here in May. And we really have been riding out what this Delta variant has looked like here in Mesa County before the nation kind of saw what Delta has become.
It's interesting. I've reflected on this same issue, that as it's become a national conversation, but the truth is we've been dealing with it for a number of months here in Mesa County. So in some ways, as we're heading into the fall, I've had this question, I'm sure you have too, but why is it that CMU feels like they're in such a unique position heading into the fall? And part of the answer, I think, is because we've been dealing with Delta for a number of months, and our cases have been tailing now for almost 2 months.
Yeah. I think we look at what has happened with, when you look at cases and incidents and what that's looked like over time, we often see these waves that start to tail off. And I think, Jeff Kerr, Executive Director of Mesa County Public Health, has been great in helping us to understand that this sort of plateau that we're seeing is likely the beginning of our tailing off here in our community of the Delta variant.
Yeah. So we know from the get-go, we've focused on a few principles. One of them is to be as transparent as possible, and I think it's part of the reason why we try and do these conversations just as regularly as we can, so that we can take your questions and continue to sharpen our pencils. The other thing we know is that we have to pay really close attention to the evidence, not necessarily what some topics I think maybe become more emotional, frankly can become political. And I think our guiding North Star has always been, we're going to pay attention to the evidence, we're going to pay attention to the science, and we're going to continue to consult our experts in the field, and that as conditions change, we are going to change. And so that's what we've really tried to base our principles around, and so far it's really served us well. I will reflect on the fact that a year ago there were some in some corners who said, you guys really shouldn't be heading off in person, or you shouldn't be doing this or shouldn't be doing that. Those principles helped us to have a year that made a huge difference in the lives of thousands of students. We're going to continue to kind of stick to those principles. And I think we glossed over the conversation around vaccinations a little bit, but I think it maybe is worthwhile for us to go back around to that topic and tell you, we are strongly encouraging you to get the vaccine. We know that it offers a great deal of protection. We also know that having had the virus extends you a great deal of protection. So for those of you who have been a former positive, it's why we're allowing that as a proxy. But if you have not had the virus and you've not yet been vaccinated, please consider doing so. I think Dr. Bronson, you and Dr. Reeder both have done such a great job of being out there and available to answer questions. And I would just encourage parents and students who are still thinking about that, totally understand it. I think we have to continue to appreciate and honor that everybody's working through this on their own timetable. But do take that step. Consider the evidence and the science around this, and chat with Dr. Bronson or with you or Dr. Reeder. I know both of you have been really available to chat with families about this.
Absolutely. And we really feel like, too, your primary care doctor and your medical health trusted professional is a great person to reach out to. There are individual circumstances and medical conditions in which you may want to consult someone in your circle that you trust. So please reach out, have that conversation. To reiterate, we do strongly recommend and know the evidence that it is helpful in protective immunity in keeping you from having severe disease. So if you have questions, please reach out. I'm more than happy to have a conversation as well.
So to reiterate, three different options for you as a student moving in. The first is get vaccinated and then upload those results. There's a spot on our website where you can go and you can click on that vaccine forms link, and then you can upload your vaccine information there. Quick and easy. The other thing you can do is upload a former positive PCR or an antibody test that shows that you have the antibodies. Either one of those works. Now, if you're not in those two categories, we are asking that you get a COVID test and demonstrate that you're negative as you're showing up to campus. And it looks like we've got a question from Jolene. Thanks for that question, Jolene. The answer is no, we don't need you as a parent necessarily to get it. If you'd like to go ahead and do that just to make sure that we're all safe, we would appreciate that. But we're hoping that you're not getting in close contact with everybody when you're here, that you're in close contact with your student, help them move in. But we're not going to be mandating that you as a parent have a test. But we are asking your student to have that negative test if they're not in one of those two other categories, right?
Yep, absolutely. And I think just to put a fine point on sort of campus protocols and plans, I want to remind folks that even though we have the data and the projections that are showing where the Delta variant is likely headed here in Mesa County Public Health, in Mesa County, it does not mean that we're out of this. So I want to continue to emphasize that as we continue to learn more, the team here is committed to continue to stay steeped in the science and applying the best protocols in order to keep our campus safe. So we're going to stay nimble, we're going to stay in the science and continue to bring protocols to this campus that are going to keep us safe here.
Well, and one additional item on the vaccines, we are actually going to be offering those vaccines thanks to your good work and partnership with our friends at Public Health. So as you're getting here to campus, we'll make it very easy, so they'll be available right here on campus. If for whatever reason you haven't had an opportunity or haven't had access to a vaccine, you'll be able to access one when you get to campus.
That's right. And it's not too late to sign up to get a vaccine here on campus. We're going to be sending out that link so that you can do it just as easy as it is to set up a test here on campus. And also, we have some prizes to give away.
That's
which is
right.
Very
We've been
exciting.
incentivizing this vaccine. So if you've had the vaccine, you're entered to win. There's a series of scholarships and other incentives for you to get that vaccine. And we just feel really strongly that that's one good route for students to take to continue protecting our community. Let's talk a little bit about protective immunity and what that looks like, because I think it relates to the question around masking too.
Yeah.
We know that our protective immunity heading into this fall is going to be well north of what we suspect herd immunity threshold is, right?
Yep, that's right. As we looked at, when we look at what protective immunity is, and I think it's really important for our campus to understand what that involves. It's not just those that have been vaccinated, it's also those, when you talked about natural immunity, it's those that have previously had COVID. And we know that that allows for some protection for our campus in the severity, the morbidity, mortality of what disease can look like. So as we have taken those calculations into consideration, we do feel like we're in a really great place as we head back as a community to have a better understanding of what that's going to look like on our campus.
So Dr. Bronson, I took a moment to peel that onion back a little bit myself. I had in conversations with Public Health and analyzing some of that data. I asked myself a question as a parent: what is the reinfection rate? Because I think it's a natural question when you say, well, if you've had it, is that as effective? Well, the Delta variant's been running here in Mesa County for several months. So the question would be, well, is the Delta punching through natural immunity at a higher rate than maybe some other variants? So there's not a ton of science about this, but we have really good evidence here in Mesa County in that we've had 18,000, just shy of 18,500 cases, right? I think as of earlier this week. Of that, we've had only 77 suspected reinfection cases. If you do that math, it's a little under 0.5%. And even if you multiply both of those by 4 and be conservative about how many infections are in the community, you still, obviously that doesn't change the ratio. So what we've seen in the community is a very low level of reinfection. And what we've seen on our campus is 0 reinfections. We had a little over 1,600 cases in the last year. And of those cases, we had some of arguably the best data set in the country between our being able to track CT values and to sequence a lot of those samples. And we were able to see, we had no reinfections on our campus. So we have a high degree of confidence in that natural immunity. We have a high degree of confidence in the vaccine. We know both of those are going to provide really strong immunity for young people on this campus. So we feel very good about that. And it leads into this question about masking. When you have such a high level of protective immunity, it changes the nature of the threat on campus.
Yeah. And I really appreciate the work of the Infectious Disease Committee here on campus, because they have really been digging into the data behind mask wearing. And when we kind of continue to come back around to what can get very confusing with all of the messaging that's out there, what is really the science behind mask wearing? And I'm excited. Our team is getting ready to roll out some more information around mindful masking so people have a greater understanding of what really is the risk involved and what areas are really high risk for transmission and what are areas that we should just really think about. It's time to mask up, Mavs, when we go into those high-risk areas. And we're going to have some more information on that as we continue to get a little closer to this semester beginning.
And I think that mindful masking idea is one where in every other area of our campus community, we try and think about what are those things we're doing to be good community members, to be respectful of other members of the campus community. We've got a variety of N95s available for those who are in a situation where they really are concerned about the virus. We have surgical face coverings, which offer the next threshold down of protective, whatever you want to call that.
Barrier?
Protective barrier.
Yeah.
And then the lowest level of protective barrier, which would be a cloth face mask. But we have all three of those available, and students and the campus are all going to be empowered to be actively thinking about, as you said, assessing risk and what does that risk look like, and making choices to protect themselves and those around them on a regular basis. So appreciate all the work that you and your committee are doing around that, and we'll continue to communicate well with you all as we progress here.
That's right.
So we got a few questions coming in, it looks like. Do students need to do regular tests, or is a rapid test okay? Talk us through, what is your rapid this year, Dr. Bronson? What's the regular test?
Absolutely.
How quickly are they turning, and what tests are acceptable?
Yeah, we're really excited this year on campus to have a Q test, which is if you're in the world of testing, we've all lived this over the last year. NAAT testing is an amplification test that we do here on campus. It's a rapid test. We can run that in about 20 minutes and get you a result. It's a really great test when we talk about specificity and sensitivity, meaning it's a good test that gives us good results. So we're excited to be able to have that here on campus.
It's both molecular and diagnostic?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yep.
So this is when you say it's a good test,
It's a good test.
you mean it.
I mean it. The
And
results,
we can turn those in 20 minutes?
we can turn those in 20 minutes.
Okay.
Yep.
So that's one option.
That's
We've
one
got
option.
a Q test available.
We also still have the Anterior nasal swab option, and that's a
That's my
PCR
favorite.
test. I
Yeah,
know.
that's-
Thank goodness it's not the back of the brain tickler.
I know.
So at
I do
least we
miss
don't
that
have
one.
that. Just the front of the nose, and we also still have the spit test, as it's lovingly called. It's also a PCR test, but it's done on saliva instead of a nasal swab.
Okay, so we have all three of those. They're all available at our walk-up test site, right?
That's right.
Over off of Orchard Avenue, in between the Orchard Avenue Apartments and the Wellness Center.
That's right.
Is our little Java hut, as I lovingly
That's
refer
exactly
to it.
right.
We have another follow-up question about testing, and that is, can you test? Looks like Larry's asking about same day as orientation. So if we've got those Q tests available, that would work, right?
Absolutely. Yep. And I would, if you have a time constraint on something, you're coming to campus and you're not sure about the timing, please just reach out to safety@coloradomesa.edu, and we can help you navigate the timing and test availability and make sure that we're able to accommodate that piece. But it's one that we should have Q test available, but make sure that you reach out to our team, and we'll make sure that we take that taken care of.
Great. And I would also remind you, Larry, if you're coming from the Front Range, you can also test before you leave, the day before, at one of the COVID Check Colorado sites that are located up and down the Front Range. As your student goes to sign up through our testing, and if you go on our website, you'll see the link for the COVID testing where you can arrange that. You can enter in your 700 number, a little bit of information, and you'll have an opportunity to select a variety of sites. So you'll see those sites pop up when you click on that COVID testing. You enter in there our partners at Primary Bio. When you click on that for CMU students, faculty, and staff, and if you click on that link, it takes you to that Primary Bio spot. Enter your 700 number, enter a little bit of information, and then the sites that you can select would either be the CMU walk-up site, which is the one we're describing, or you can pick, if you're in the Denver area, you can pick one that's close to your home and get one of those tests done a day or so before you come.
Yep, and if you're not new to CMU, the Primary Bio site is a very similar link that we used last year, so people should be very familiar with how to get set up to come get a test.
Stephanie, thanks so much for your comments, and really just want to re-emphasize how much we need you all as parents coming alongside us, because you're making us better. You're asking us the tough questions, and some of them we don't know the answer to. That makes us go back to the drawing board and make sure we do. But continue in that dialogue with us, because we need you as partners in this process as we do everything in our power to keep our campus safe. And I would just reiterate that our plans today are based on what the evidence is telling us here in Mesa County and on our campus. But we're going to watch really closely all these data points, right? We've got a variety of ways to be tracking what's happening, including continuing to test, monitor exactly what's going on, and make sure that if conditions change, we are ready to change and pivot. So thanks so much for your kind comments, Stephanie. Looks like Vanessa's asking about your rapid tests here. How effective are they?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So I can tell you that we ran our Q test all of the spring semester alongside our PCR tests, and they were completely congruent, meaning that they had the same response both on PCR and our NAAT test. So we do feel very good about that test. There is always the ability to be able to do a follow-up PCR. So if the rapid test comes back and we have questions or concerns about it.
Inconclusive?
Exactly, and sometimes they do. We can easily rerun a PCR test that we can usually get results back within 24 hours.
Maybe helpful to recognize that Q test, and that's CUE, by the way, that Q test has been endorsed and supported by the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment, the state regulator that's in charge of such things. So we do feel really good about it. Both our own evidence tells us that, and the state of Colorado has endorsed that test. But really appreciate that question in terms of how effective that is. The other question, looks like we see a number of questions coming in around masks. And I think we just need to point out that while I appreciate this has become kind of a fever pitch and frankly, unfortunately, at times a political conversation, we're going to continue to stick to those core principles. We believe in science, we believe in evidence, and we're going to continue to stick with what the data is telling us. And so right now we're coming into fall with decreasing cases in our community and have been since the third week of June. We're coming into our fall semester with a very high level of campus-wide protective immunity. And so at this time, we're going to ask students to practice mindful masking. So one of the related questions to that, Dr. Bronson, is how do we know if we're going to move away from current conditions and step into something where we might have a higher level of concern and start to revert back to some of those more strict mandates?
Yeah, and I think a lot of this work is, I'm very grateful to both Dr. Purdy Sabetti and their team at MIT Broad Institute for really helping us think through our pivot plan. And the Infectious Disease Advisory Committee is also working through that in collaboration with Mesa County Public Health. And we really have created indicators and markers based on our data from last year of what it's going to look like when we move from what was green to yellow to orange to red. And the mask policies and all of our prevention strategies follow that same guideline. So although we may start the semester in one place, we also will be reevaluating that every week to know if we need to pivot and change. And that is really what made our plan successful last year and will continue to be our thread this year.
That's right. Appreciate that very much. Let's see. It looks like, Marie, you've got a question about the community vaccination rate or campus community vaccination rate. So we've been in conversation with Mesa County Public Health. They've been really kind about giving us metadata. Now, Marie, they're not going to tell us if you're a student or whether I'm vaccinated or anybody else as an individual, but they do give us campus-wide information. We've gotten really encouraging data back. We think we're going to be well north of what the national average is for students, I think over 50% in terms of our students being vaccinated. And then we add that level to those who've already had the virus and have protective immunity that way. So we believe right now, between the two of those metrics, we're going to be in the 85 to high 80s, somewhere in that range, heading into fall, which is in the range that we feel really good about in terms of feeling like this campus is in a pretty safe spot.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think to just reiterate, we know that sometimes that's a snapshot in time, and that does not mean that we're sitting on our laurels and not doing anything else around protection. I think the conversation has gotten really heated around vaccines and masks, but we can't forget that what made us successful was really this onion layered approach to safety. And a lot of the protocols and policies that we had last year are not going away. And I'd like to sort of refocus on the fact that universal precautions, washing our hands and making sure that, we're continuing to take some of those universal precautions that we know work can all be a part of our safety strategy, whether or not it goes along with guidelines, policies, procedures that we're doing here on campus.
Yeah, that's right. Amy from Boulder, sure appreciate your excitement. Sounds like your son's coming back for a senior year. I just can't tell you how excited we are to be able to get back together again, be in the classroom, do the work that we all love, why this university exists, which is providing access and really a life-changing experience for our students. So thanks for that. Look forward to seeing you back on campus, and more importantly, seeing your son cross the graduation stage this coming fall.
Yep.
Or spring, probably,
Spring.
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Larry has a question. I
Okay.
know we talked about it earlier, but travel.
Oh,
Where is the site that people can go to get more information on travel?
I wonder if the guys in the back in the production room could pull up cotrip.org again, and there's a variety of options there, but it's cotrip.org. This is the Colorado Department of Transportation's site. There it is. And right now it's showing that I-70 is closed, but it's got a variety of information there specific to I-70 and those other routes. And I would just reiterate, if you're driving, you've really got 3 different options. I thought it was only going to be 2, but as of a few minutes ago, we've got 3 again. One option is Highway 50. Okay, so that's, if you're coming from Denver, you start on 285 over Kenosha Pass. You get to Poncha Springs, or what's called Johnson Crossing, right? You hit that spot, jump on Highway 50, take a right, over Monarch, past Gunnison, past Montrose, and into Grand Junction. You can take the northern route, which they just had on the screen, which is up through Steamboat Springs, Craig, down through Meeker, Rifle, and then into Grand Junction. Or keep a close eye out, as we just learned that I-70 will have limited access through Glenwood Canyon. Sounds like starting Saturday afternoon. We'll keep a close eye. That's new information to us too. Thanks again to the head of public safety in Colorado, Stan Hilke, for that heads up here just a few minutes ago. We appreciate Stan and his work. Stan is actually going to join us. Director Hilke is going to join us on Monday night. We're going to have a teletown hall meeting, and he's going to chat directly about this topic some more. So if you have more questions, look out for one of our teletown hall meetings that we have grown fond of, in addition to these Facebook Lives, as a way to communicate with you all. And we'll be making that call Monday night. I think it's at 5:30. And Public Safety Director Hilke will join us for that conversation. So appreciate his participation.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so looks like we have a question from Janice.
Janice, yes.
Yeah. Janice asks, can they get tested at urgent care or only COVID check Colorado?
Yeah, great question. We appreciate that. And you can get a test wherever it's convenient for you. So the COVID Check Colorado sites are easy and accessible, but if you can get one at your primary care or an urgent care, please feel free to do that.
Okay. We sure appreciate everybody. We're running tight on time for today. Thank you for all the questions. Continue to let those roll in. Jump on our call Monday night, that teletown hall 5:30. If you get a call from a CMU phone number at 5:30, that's what that is a live teletown hall. We'll be taking more questions. In the meantime, Dr. Bronson, safety@coloradomesa.edu.
That's the one.
It's the email address that you can send us a note and make sure that we're being responsive to all your questions. So appreciate everybody joining us yet again. Dr. Bronson, thanks for your tireless efforts keeping this campus safe, and we look forward to seeing you all real soon. Take care now.